So, as you know, we are now in chapter 5, and in the last class we completed up to verse number 10. So, this chapter, which is titled as Sannyasa Yoga. So, again, just let us quickly recap what is discussed in the first 10 verses. So the chapter began by Arjuna asking Krishna which lifestyle is better, whether it is a sannyasa lifestyle or a grihastha lifestyle. So Krishna replied that between these two, sannyasa, grihastha ashrama is better. So then he goes on to elaborate why. Because each ashrama has its own plus and minus. Sannyasa ashrama gives you freedom to focus completely on jnana yoga, but the scope for doing karma yoga is limited. On the other hand, for a grihastha, there is ample scope of doing karma yoga because you do lot of karma, lot of activities. So the scope for doing karma yoga is, following karma yoga is much more than what chance you get in as a sannyasi. Moreover, sannyasa ashrama sannyasi requires lot of maturity, because unless one takes sannyas without maturity, there is bound to be problems, because it's not easy for a sannyasi to survive, because he depends for all his needs, he depends on the others, right from his food, clothing, shelter, everything he has to depend on others. So first he has to accept that, and then he also has limited resources to do karma yoga. So of course, in a sannyasa ashrama, karma yoga may be done in a different way. He can teach, he can share his knowledge, which is also part of karma yoga, but he cannot help anybody monetarily or any other way which a grihastha can do. So both ashramas are having their own plus and minus, but a grihastha ashrama is better in the sense you have more freedom to do many things, because in a sannyasa ashrama your activities are limited. The only advantage of sannyasa ashrama is you can have entire time for study, for jnana yoga, but that is not useful if your mind is not prepared. So even if you take sannyas, if you are mentally not prepared, then neither you will be able to enjoy your day-to-day things, nor you will be able to gain knowledge, because ultimately a pure mind is what is required for knowledge. So that is why Krishna said that it is better to be a grihastha than a sannyasi, because even if he had by chance he had said sannyasa ashrama is better, Arjuna would have grabbed that opportunity, dropped all his weapons and run away to the Himalayas probably and become a yogi. So that was Krishna didn't give him any chance to do that. So he elaborated the plus and minus of each ashrama, and among the two, grihastha ashrama is better. So we have seen up to the 10th verse. So let us read the 10th verse, then we will move on. ब्रह्मण्याध्याय कर्माणि संगम त्यक्ता करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमि वाम्भसा. So in this verse Krishna says, the one who performs actions giving up attachment and offering all the results of the actions unto Brahman is not affected by any sin or papam. Just as a leaf, a lotus leaf, though it is in water, it is not, the water does not wet the leaf. As you know, if you see the lotus leaf, if you put some water on it, it will just, that water will not wet the leaf, it will stay there as a bubble. So that is how one should be, giving up all the results of the action, giving up attachment to the results of the action, and be like the lotus leaf. So now let us move on to verse number 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalendriya indriyairapi yogina karma kurvanti sangam tvatma shuddhaye. So now here Krishna is talking about the actions performed by a karma yogi and also the results of those actions. So generally any karma is done by 4 methods. One is physical karma, the second one is vachaka, with the mouth, then manasa, through the mind and through the senses. So there are 4 types of karmas. All the karmas can be categorized into these 4 types, and everybody does only this. So there is nothing other than these 4. So either you can do a physical activity, or you can through your mouth you can do some activity, or through your mind, or through your senses. So all activities can be categorized into these 4, and all the beings carry out these 4 types of activities. So what is the difference between a karma yogi and activity done by a karma yogi and one who is not a karma yogi? That is what you have to say. So karma yogi performs actions as a service to the Lord. All his actions are not bound by any personal likes and dislikes. So he performs his actions as a service to the Lord, and whatever the results of those actions come, he accepts them as a prasada of the Lord. So basically it's only an attitude. So in our culture we can do any of these 4 karmas can be done. If you cannot do this, you do. So nobody can say I cannot do karma or karma yoga. If you are able to do physical activity, you can do. If you are not able to do, you can do vachaka, something. You can do parayanam, you can do some chanting, or manasa, you can do meditation, or intellectual activity like you can study Bhagavad Gita. So all these are possible for everybody, but each of these has its own. But nobody can say I cannot do any of these, because you have been given the option. There is no compulsion that you should do only physical activity or mental activity, or you can choose and do, and you can combine all this. Each of these is required, because without physical activity we may not be able to, the body may not be able to function the way it should. And we can see nowadays, because of this after the IT revolution, most of the work is done only mentally. There is no physical activity. So that is why people working in those areas, they have developed a lot of physical problems, right from back pain, neck pain, eye problems, and then without movement or digestive problems. So physical activity is also required, and basically all are lazy. So let us accept that, because we are all born lazy. The body by itself is tamas, so it is bound to be lazy. So that is why even in the morning, if you have to get up early, the body will always protest. So let us sleep for 5-10 minutes extra. So that is natural. But we have to overcome that and do our activity. So physical activity is a must. So is the other activities. But you can choose to do whichever you want to. So you can choose whichever activity you want and perform those activity with a karma yoga attitude. So karma yoga is not something which you can practice, or it is an attitude. It has to come. You have to first understand that you are not the doer. For that we need jnanam. But initially you do it as a service to the Lord, and then, because any activity where the results are very important tends to make the mind very restless. So when we do any activity where we are so much bothered about the result, right? When you write an exam, it's not just getting, so if you want to get a college admission, it is not just getting pass marks. You have to see what is the cutoff mark. So 99.9 itself nowadays seems to be less. So all those people, all those children who are writing these exams, they undergo severe stress, and some of them do commit suicide also because they don't get what they expect. So you can understand the level of disturbance in the mind. But when you do an activity where you dedicate it to the Lord, I am doing it for the Lord, whatever results come He gives, it is acceptable to me. In fact, yesterday I was watching one video by this Crazy Mohan's brother, Madhu Balaji. So he was talking about a recent visit to Mantralayam, and somebody had recommended you should have food in Mantralaya Mami's mess. So he happened to go there. He found that the food was excellent, and he also found it very cheap. And he happened to talk to the owners. There's a husband and wife, young couple who are running it. So he asked them, how are you able to give such quality food at cheap prices, which is useful to all the devotees? So that lady said they are both chartered accountants who are practicing or working in high jobs in Chennai. Her father, who was also in Chennai, happened to go to Mantralayam, and he had a dream where Raghavendra appeared and told him to run a mess there so that general public will benefit. So he was running it, and during COVID he passed away, and they had closed it for some time. But again this lady had a dream in which Raghavendra come and told her that you should come and run that mess. So that is how they came back. Her husband also came with her, and they started running this mess again. And she said whatever they receive, they never bother about whether they get profit or loss. So whatever collections are there, they just keep it in one place, and whatever is required, they take it from there to purchase vegetables or all the things required for the plus their personal expenses, and the rest goes to the temple. So she said, so he was asking, how do you manage to run? You must be having severe problems. He said, no, Raghavendra is running this mess. We are only doing on his behalf. So he ensures that it runs. So it is amazing. So that is a live example. We don't know really how they do it. We cannot go into the details. But from what she said we are very happy here. We don't miss doing our professional work. Happy doing this service, and when people come and express their gratitude and their happiness in having the food, we feel fulfilled. So this is one example of Karma Yoga where people have just taken that attitude and do their work connected with that attitude. So basically, Karma Yogis do it, this is the method, any of these four, with that attitude of Karma Yoga. And what is the result of this? What do they achieve? They achieve a purified mind. So basically, the goal of a Karma Yogi is to achieve a pure mind. And what is the purpose of this pure mind? One thing is, you get a peaceful mind most of the time. But that is not the ultimate goal, because if you want to gain moksha, you should also gain jnana. So a pure mind helps you to gain jnana, because if your mind is not pure, whatever knowledge you get, that will not stay with you, and when you need it, that knowledge will not come to the forefront. So first you need to prepare the mind, purify the mind. So the whole purpose, initial purpose of everyone's life is to purify the mind, and purification of the mind is one of the methods is follow Karma Yoga. If you can find some other method, good, but as per Bhagavad Gita, a pure mind is required for gaining knowledge. So Bhagavad Gita says, purify your mind and get yourself qualified for Jnana Yoga. So Karma Yoga doesn't ensure that you get directly, you will not get moksha, but it will ensure that you have a mind which is ready for the next stage. So like sometimes when somebody has an accident, so they give what is called as first aid. The first aid ensures that you reach the nearest hospital, and there the main treatment is given. So it is very similar. First aid, Karma Yoga is like the first aid. It ensures that you are prepared for further treatment or to gain jnana. So that is what is the purpose of Karma Yoga. So the method is to follow any of these four types of actions, but with an attitude of doing those actions as a service to the Lord and accepting the results as a prasada from God. So this is the only way over a period of time one gets a pure mind. And this mind is also pure in the sense it is relatively pure. You are not affected much, but this is not a permanent. It's like first aid is not a permanent solution to the problem. You need to go through the main treatment. So the main treatment is Jnana Yoga, which will give you permanent peace, which is at any time 24/7, 365 days in a year. At no point you are disturbed by anything. So that is what everyone's goal is. If we can achieve that, it's nothing like that. But initially, at least we should purify the mind, so you're not affected. At least maybe instead of 24/7, at least during the day 6 to 8 hours you are free from, because this attitude, of course, even with this attitude you cannot say there will be no problems and you will not be affected at all, but it's a process. The purification process goes on, and the more pure it becomes, you will be able to handle problems in a easier way. You will not be affected easily. So that is what is the purpose of Karma Yoga. Now let us read verse number 12. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naistikim. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naistikim. Ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. So here Krishna says, the one who is endowed with Karma Yoga giving up the results of action gains a composure born out of commitment to a life of Karma Yoga. Whereas the one who is not committed to a life of Karma Yoga, led by desire, he is bound by being attached to the results of the action. So here Krishna is talking about, again continuing with the purity of the mind. So Karma Yoga comes out of Prasada Buddhi. So the more you are able to accept the results as Prasada from the Lord, the more you will be at peace with yourself. Because Prasada Buddhi ensures that when you don't expect something, whatever comes you accept, there is no problem. Like we have already earlier examples also we have given. Suppose there is a 5-match series, cricket matches, and one team has won the first 3 matches, so they have already won the series. So the other 2 matches, they are not bothered about the results. They play with they give chance to others also who have not played in the first 3 matches, and they experiment. They don't bother whether they win or lose, because the results are immaterial. Maybe even in college, some people, maybe they just join the college to get a degree. You might have seen those are probably very well off, and they have some business running, and they only for the sake of having a degree they come and join the college sometimes. They take it cool, because they are not bothered about the marks. So whatever marks they get, they are happy. While others, most of us, the marks matter, because unless you have sufficient marks going to the next, whether you are going for further studies, or even when you have when you apply for a job, so normally they tend to pick people with higher marks. But the one who's not worried about getting a job or getting going for higher studies, he is cool. So he just comes and goes through without worrying about the result. So we might have seen in our own among our own friends some people who have that. So basically you have to cultivate that habit, because karma yoga is possible through bringing that, because always there is a tendency to take credit. We have to understand that the law of nature, so there is a particular role for each person. So we are all part of the natural order. So in the natural order, we have to contribute our might. But generally we tend to take more than what we give. So that is where the problems come. If we follow the world order and we tend to do things as they should be done, following the rules of nature, then you are at peace. Because even when you get a disease, it is because you are not in harmony with the surroundings. So disease is nothing but not being in tune with your surroundings. So the more you are away from your surroundings, the more problems you are going to face, even physically. So the whole, you can say, the world order has to be maintained, and everyone is a part of that. So the more you are in tune with the world order, the more your mind will be peaceful. So you contribute because you feel you are part of the world order. If you feel, that's what probably the human beings think, that they have some special right to abuse everything around, because none of the other beings will do that, because they follow the natural order. Only human beings tend to abuse that right, and then we complain about climate change and we complain about so many other factors that come in, without acknowledging that we are responsible for that. Now people, earlier, for clean air you don't have to go anywhere, you just step out your house, you have clean air. Now people have to go miles into some villages and other places where you find clean air. So just for breathing some clean air you have to travel miles, and all the physical work that we used to do, now we have to do something separately, because everything was part of our routine. Now we have to find time to do separately. And what food was healthy in those days and which was very cheap, now we are going back and trying to eat, like for example millets were the staple diet of earlier people, and they were the cheapest form of grain available. Now our lifestyle has changed so much that we forgot to take millets, and now millets have become more costly than rice and wheat. So to buy millets now we have to spend much more. If we had followed that earlier routine, we would still get millets at a lower price, and also we would have been more healthy. So now, having done all this, we are trying to again go back, realizing that those things were better. So Karma Yoga attitude is the one which is going to purify the mind. And then the second part of the verse, Krishna says, those who don't have this attitude, those who do, are driven by their own likes and dislikes, they continue to do the same activities as a Karma Yogi, but they are totally dependent on the results. And if the results don't happen the way they want them to happen, they get stressed, they get depressed, physically and mentally they go through severe problems. And this continues, and even after they leave the body, they have to come back and again go through similar problems. So death doesn't ensure that your problems are over. It is over as far as this body is concerned. You may get a different body where you may have to go through more problems, because as long as you work for results, problems are bound to happen, because your mind will never be at peace. Even if you achieve whatever you want, always you feel there is something better you could have got, you could have done this. So we are either driven by the past, we are, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, if I had done this I would have been this, or we are always worried about the future, what will happen, if I don't get this, what will happen, whether I'll be healthy tomorrow, what will happen to my body. So either we are in the past. Of course, past you can learn. So if you are a Karma Yogi, you will use the past as a lesson for the present. You don't repeat the mistakes that you did in the past. So you use the past effectively, and the future, as long as you go with that attitude of Karma Yoga, you will not be too much bothered about the results that will happen in the future, because whatever results come, you are ready to accept that. But if you are purely driven by results, it is going to be, you are going to be bound. You are never going to be free. Moksha is freedom from everything. But if you are always going to be bound, you will never attain moksha, and you will continue to come back in different forms, go through the same problems in a different body, and again continue suffering. So if you are not intelligent, you don't take to a Karma Yoga attitude, you are bound by your likes and dislikes, you are bound to go through pain. And if one sees one's lifetime, you will find that there is more pain than pleasure. So because pleasure also comes and then it brings pain, because when the pleasure goes away, it becomes pain again. So if one wants to, of course, some people say, okay, I don't bother, as long this is one life, I want to live it the way I want. Good, there's no problem, that's your choice. But it is going to bring on a lot of pain. So only when the pain comes, you realize, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. So basically, one has to be very clear about the goal. Once one is clear about the goal, then you can back work to achieve that goal, what is required, and then do any of the 4 types of activity with a karma yoga attitude. So once you do that, your mind gets pure, and a pure mind is ready for the next stage, which is jnanam, and through jnanam only you can gain moksha. So this is the process involved. So for all of us, this is the process involved. Those who want to gain freedom, follow this method. First take to karma yoga, or rather do all your activities with a karma yoga attitude. In fact, you can say the entire purpose of life is to purify the mind. So the one, and karma yoga is the best way to purify the mind. And a pure mind is what is, even if you don't get moksha, this pure mind will continue in your later births, and you will be able to utilize that pure mind. So this is how one goes through the procedure to gain that ultimate freedom. So we will see further in the next class.